for God's sakes. That's right, these people.
Where's the best boy? Oh, he's coming.
I'm very, very happy that I've been able to meet so many of you. And by now, a lot of you know I am Karen's sister, her older sister. And you also know how very, very lucky I am. Couldn't ask for a better sister, and I couldn't ask for better memories. We have shared so much for so long, and we plan to continue doing that. As you also know, Colin met Karen, or vice versa, in 6th grade, and they really became a couple in high school, which means Colin has been in my life almost as long.
Oh, lucky you. Oh, wow.
And that means that we have shared, three of us, have shared so many childhood memories. We just need to say one word and a rush of memories should come back. I don't think anyone mentioned tonight that Colin was really the mayor of Asbury Park. And he brought that kind of clap to our government. Through the years, my husband Tom and I have been able to share so much joy. We've had the pleasure of both becoming parents and grandparents, and we hope to continue celebrating wonderful festivities like this one. And I don't even see my sister right now. There she is. Wish Karen and Colin good health, endless fun that we don't need to worry about, and great golf forever.
Now, some words from our best man, Ron. Best man, Ron? Ron!
No, the sons are gonna go.
What? Oh, the other one? Okay. So we're going to have sons Stephen, Andrew, and Dan. Sorry. Hey, how are you? I'm doing well.
Okay, so first we'd like to thank everyone for coming. We know a lot of you traveled a long distance, and it means the world to us that y'all came here to help us celebrate my parents' 50th anniversary. So last week, my dad sent a text to my brothers and I, and he asked if we'd say a few words this evening. And he also said that humor is more than welcome. So those of you who know us well know that humor in the Barron family can be a full contact sport at times. We also know my mother will kill us if we go too far. So we're going to try and toe the line the best that we can. So what we decided to do tonight is my brothers and I are going to take you through the last 46 years of our marriage. We understand we've been married 50 years, but nothing worthwhile happened before we were born. So by far the happiest years of our marriage were from 1973 to 75. I was an only child. We just moved from Virginia to Connecticut. My father was a hardworking associate at Pullman and Comley. And my mother was just beginning what eventually turned into a 20-year-long maternity leave. Stephen came along in 75. Well, I don't really remember his arrival. I'm sure my parents were thrilled to see their young family growing. Family life was pretty good. There were summer trips to the Jersey Shore to see my grandparents, backyard sporting events, and boating on the Sound. Andrew came along in 1980. To this day, Stephen and I believe he was an accident. Things were going great. We couldn't believe they would risk everything by having another kid. They already had one perfect son, and that's more than most families could ever ask. Sports were a constant in our young family. My father played on the law firm's softball and football teams. He was so proud of his athletic prowess that he dragged us to all of his games. I can vividly remember my father throwing touchdown passes at least 10 yards deep. My brothers and I quickly caught the sporting bug. We had games every weekend that took place all over New England. This necessitated my parents spending a lot of weekends apart, and this was just many of the sacrifices they made for us. Though in hindsight, having been married 18 years myself, I realized this time apart was probably good for the marriage. I should mention at this point that, unlike most couples, my parents aren't drinkers. I've noticed that my wife, Patty, for instance, pours a glass of wine the moment I walk through the door. By the time I was 12 or 13, my father had stopped playing on the law firm teams and was living vicariously through us. As a passionate sports fan and loving father, my dad could be quite vocal on the sidelines. I'll never forget the day at Sturgis Park when my father screamed at the referee that he wished he had vision. If only we had video of my father getting kicked off the field that day at Sturgis Park. Some of our happiest family memories took place in Vermont. Beginning in the 80s, my parents rented a house at Stratton Mountain with their good friends Dan and Sandra Weiss. Some of our highlights from that weekend included regularly skidding off the road in our car, putting my dad's head through a wall during an indoor football game, my father running barefoot across the family room, sled in hand, and diving straight from the living room down the slope, and my mom religiously skiing the same two trails for more than a decade. So despite everything you just heard, I should mention that my parents did provide us with a pretty good life. And now that I'm an adult, have my own wife and children, I realize that everything I know about being a good dad and husband came from that.
Let's give it up for Daniel. I would ordinarily say that's a tough act to follow, but my childhood experience would indicate otherwise. I'm Stephen, child number 2, and I'll pick this story up in the 1990s with Daniel's departure for college. It was a very joyous time in our family. My parents' first treasure left us, and that created a lot more time for endeavors outside of looking after him. So my mother, for example, as Daniel alluded to, ended her 20-year maternity leave and returned to teaching 2nd grade. And she was a wonderful, caring teacher, and to this day, she regularly runs into her former students around town who still sing her praises. I didn't get to meet many of them, but one of them stopped by the house on a summer evening much like this one. He rang the bell, and I opened the door to see him scurrying out into the woods adjacent to the yard. And I looked outside to see he had left a fire on the front porch. So I suppose he wasn't my mother's, my mother was not his favorite teacher, and certainly not after the police came. Incidentally, lived next door.
Wait a minute, for the record, I did not teach that child.
Let's make it for a better story. My father, on the other hand, retired from teaching. He was Daniel's self-appointed tutor, which, if you've ever seen him teach, did not work out very well. So he turned his attention to the environment. Two things he really focused on. One, which he still does today, is if you exit a room with the lights still on, he'll scream "lights" at you. Which is,
Lights.
yeah, very sweet and endearing. And he also would walk out on the deck with a brown shopping bag full of food scraps and attempt to toss them into the woods that usually land in the middle of the yard. And he would call that composting. As he was getting a bit older at this time, he did retire from the Pullman Comedy sports teams and turned his efforts to designing the firm's golf hats. This year's edition commemorates the firm's 100th anniversary, and he'll be happy to tell you that they are the best version yet. My father's been with the firm for nearly half of those 100 years. It's rare to see many people stay with an organization that long. I think it's a real testament to the relationships he's built there, and also how it's created a great environment for our family and all he's been able to provide. So very thankful for that. His golf hat credentials aside, my brothers and I are extremely appreciative of the interest he set in us in golf and all the wonderful family members we have playing golf here at Aspetuck, as well as more recently at their home down in South Carolina, which we look forward to for years to come. Unlike my brothers, I moved more than a few yards away from home. I live in New York City now, but I managed to keep some of their lessons, particularly the humorous ones, close to heart. So I'll leave you with 3 lessons. The first is to take care of one another. So my mother, she's always had my back. At restaurants, she would jump in whenever she felt I had not adequately instructed the waiter about my nut allergy and put it in what she felt were the proper terms, which she still does to this day. My father was also very concerned, and he would really put his instructions to use at home during family meals when he would instruct me, "Stephen, there's one nut in the dish. Let's see if you can find it." The second lesson is to remember your roots. I remember well the many trips to visit our grandparents in New Jersey and the walking tours to the Asbury Park Boardwalk, where my parents, of course, met. While I generally prefer to make fun of New Jersey, I fondly remember the trips there and the thrill of spending the holidays with many generations of family. So I'm so very happy to continue to do that to this day in my parents' ever-growing list of homes. And then the third lesson would be to spend time on things you enjoy. I'd be remiss for not thanking my mother, spending most weekends driving me up and down the East Coast to soccer tournaments, and more than occasionally to the hospital when broken bones. While I can't say she necessarily enjoyed the driving, I do know we both appreciate the one-on-one time and the lasting memories it created, so thank you, Mom. And then speaking of sports, for my father, I gained a love for sports, in particular the University of Virginia. Ultimately, this led to me following his footsteps there. And I always look forward to our discussions about the UVA sports teams, in particular the 2019 National Championship in basketball. So it would be very easy with my parents to close with a story that would make them cry, but I'll keep it light. Many thanks for all you've done for us, and congratulations on the first 50 years. We wish you many wonderful years ahead. Thank you.
Good evening. So I had also prepared a toast tonight, but right before we got here, my mother sent us a text. Literally 5:22 tonight. She sent this to Daniel, Stephen, and me, and said, "Just a little plea. Please do not embarrass your father in any way tonight." If anyone wants to say this is a celebration, not a roast. It goes on. This shouldn't be necessary, but there is a time and a place for everything. Your worried mother. So that gave me 40 minutes to rewrite my speech. I haven't memorized it, so I'm going to read it. And it's not that funny anymore. The greatest thing to have come from my parents' love is me. My name is Andrew, and I am the youngest of the 3 boys. As Stephen mentioned, the happiest day of my parents' marriage was the day Daniel went to college. Absolutely true. But what he didn't mention was that the second happiest day was the day Stephen went to college. 1993 was glorious. Both of these two were out of the house, and my mother, father, and I all shared a sigh of relief. From that day forward, we called ourselves the nuclear family. Together, we enjoyed a peaceful household, sharing stories over dinner, and lovely nuclear family-only vacations. It was nice when my brothers returned home for a visit, but it was even nicer when they left. Things were so good that I decided to stay. I returned home after graduating from college despite being gainfully employed, and thereby preventing my parents from enjoying the third happiest day of their marriage. After finally moving out, I convinced my wife that we should live within walking distance of my parents. We did. Given this close proximity, I've seen it all and experienced my parents' evolution up close. My mom has become a world-class warrior. Despite the fact that she has less and less to worry about, she worries more than ever. We routinely get family-wide texts alerting us to the dangers she perceives. This includes local road closures. Also said one last month. Imminent bad weather, the risks of black ice, the importance of sunscreen, the hazards of owning a pool, every food and product recall ever announced in the United States. The list goes on. As for my father, he believes he is quite charming. He's probably mentioned that to you. And with age, his charm has only increased. For example, when someone surprises him with a good answer, he's quick to compliment them by saying, "You're not as dumb as you look." When someone makes a mistake, he reassures them that they are in fact wrong and asks, "What the hell were you thinking?" 50 years. It's quite remarkable. Perhaps it was luck that these two soulmates met in 6th grade and stayed married for 50 years. But I suspect differently. My grandparents, Morton and Marion Barron on my dad's side, and Rebecca and Charles Moore on my mom's side, were also married to their first and only spouses for well over 50 years. My mom's sister, Elizabeth, has passed the 50-year milestone, and my dad's brother, Ron, is not far away. I don't think that's a coincidence or luck. I think that's the legacy of the values and character my grandparents passed along to the children. Despite having very different personalities, my parents share the same values. Values that I've tried to bring to my own marriage and family. They instill the importance of family, intellectual curiosity, education, and hard work. I'm inspired by my mother's patience. Means a lot of it. High standards and deep care for others. And I am inspired by my father's wisdom, analytical thinking, and ingenuity. I turn to my parents first whenever I need advice. Theirs is the number I call in an emergency or whenever a major decision needs to be made. If anyone in the family needs help, they are quick to mobilize and do whatever they can to to help resolve the issue. Mom and Dad, you've been giving me great advice for nearly 40 years. Now it's time for me to give you some. That's not that funny. I wish it were. My mom told me it couldn't be. You are at a stage in your lives where you can do anything you want. You don't need to work, you have your health, and your kids are independent. I want you to take advantage of this and continue to pursue your passions. You've started retiring to South Carolina and have made many new friends. You've started traveling more with recent trips to Iceland and Italy. I hope you take more trips and see the world together. Mom, I know you are too nervous to travel anywhere that has ever had a mudslide, tornado, earthquake, forest fire, or general severe weather incident. So the options will be limited. But I hope you take the chance. You've put us first for so long, and now it's time to put yourselves first. It's time to enjoy all that you've accomplished. Mom and Dad, thank you so much for giving me a true sense of family, and for believing in me, loving in me, and standing by me. Please join me in raising a glass to Mom and Dad, Grammy and Smokey, Karen and Colin. I wish them continued happiness, love, and laughter in the coming years, and wonderful experiences ahead with friends, family, and each other. Cheers.
Dan will be here all week. Okay. Best man. How you doing? Come on. Come on. You were ready.
So I had a choice of going first or last. I made the wrong choice. So Karen, Colin, and I grew up at the Jersey Shore in Asbury Park. The shore was home to Snooki, The Situation, and Minnie. Last week, a friend sent me an article from the Atlantic City Press about Carol Glass, a 64-year-old woman who travels twice a week to North Wildwood Boardwalk to play Fascination, my brother's game. Carol spends the next, according to the paper, 6 to 10 hours rolling a little rubber ball toward a square board with 24 holes. I don't need my seat, she said. I don't need my seat, she said. I'm addicted to this game. We are fortunate that tonight we have with us a former summertime Fascination Barker, who will take us back to Asbury Park Boardwalk 50 years ago. So basically you heard a little bit of it before, but here you go, Colin, go.
Ruben's Fascination, the original Fascination. Walk in now, have a seat, have a ball, 5 lights in a row. First person to do it wins the game. There's a winner each and every time the game is played.
1,000 times. So 1969 was a momentous year. It was Woodstock, the Beatles' Abbey Road, Vietnam, the first man on the moon, and Karen and Colin getting married. My brother and Karen were then just 22 years old, and probably had been in love since they first met when they were 11 years old. Tonight we helped Karen and Colin celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary. 50 years ago, Karen was a kindergarten teacher, and Colin was the only married caddy, he's married caddy at Hollywood Golf Club, which may have been his favorite job in the summertime of the many he had, which is what he needed to do to earn money for college. He was a waiter, he was a valet at the Stone Pony where Bruce got his start, and he assembled wind detection devices, which they sent to Vietnam. So they dropped them out of airplanes, and they made sure that when we sent all that poison gas, that we didn't kill our troops, we just killed the other guys. But Colin met Karen before he met him. I knew him better than anyone else. In fact, I raised him before I handed him off. And I taught him all of the wrong things to do. Followed none of the rules. My parents were crazy about me doing that. So what he would do, I was like the devil on his shoulder. What he did when he went to high school, the teachers would say to him, "Are you related to Ronnie Barron?" And he would say, initially he said, "Yeah," but then he stopped, then he realized what he was doing, and said, "No, no, not him, not that Barron." So he was, "No, not that Barron," that was his name. When our dad told us to practice piano, I wanted to be outside playing ball. My father said that if I don't practice a half an hour a day, he was going to sell the piano. I said, "Okay, that's fine." He sold the piano. Colin recently told me that he was really upset about that. He wanted to play piano. We started a water ski business, a school right across from the ocean. It was on a lake. And Colin drove the boat, and I got the customers, and I held them and taught them how to ski and how to land at the end. And Colin, his job was making sure he didn't kill anyone by running over them. And this was going really well until the police showed up. And they said, "You don't have insurance, and you don't have a license, and if you don't close this down or get an insurance and license, you're going to jail." Now, I didn't believe them. But my father, who was a real stickler for these sort of things, and to show how concerned he was about our personal welfare, he would be in our backyard with a bow and arrow shooting rabbits, killing rabbits with a bow and arrow, and he was telling us about being safe. So we stopped our water ski school. Karen rebelled against my tutelage by marrying Karen, whom her friends called, as you heard before, the saint. That's because she has such a good, nice, and she's a kind person. As Colin's life partner, she's been working hard to undo all of the things I taught him for all those years. Who finds their beloved when they're 11? I concluded Colin needed someone to protect him from me. And when he found the safe harbor, I picked up a younger sister. I've watched Colin progress from not that Barron to Colin Barron. Karen, you've created Colin Barron. You saw his potential, and Colin and you have built a wonderful, warm, and loving family. The four Daniels that you heard live half a mile away. The four Andrews live a mile away. And Stephen got a little bit smarter, and he lives in New York. But they're still not too far from Karen's 3 sons to keep them together, and the boy child with whom she shares her bedroom, and their 4 grandchildren. And they've all together created this very incredibly close family. So things have gone so well for my brother since Karen arrived and I left, that I sometimes worry that all my hard work about corrupting my younger brother is getting erased. But when Karen and Colin have a rare disagreement, which is very rare because Karen is such a good sport, but when they have this rare disagreement, Karen says to Colin, to close the argument out, "Colin, you're just like your brother." Karen, when you say that, I couldn't be more proud of you.